go. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a snowy, rainy day in Binghamton, New York. I don't know how that happens, snow and rain together. It doesn't make sense to me because when I learned in school, 32 degrees said snow. So I don't know where the rain comes from, but hey, it's snowing and raining out there. I'm all snug in my office, and I'm going to talk to you today about pets, publishing, and pet fashion. So let me ask you, do you dress your dog up for Christmas, Valentine's Day? How about Halloween? You do it on Halloween. Everyone does it on Halloween. You're not fooling me. We're going to talk to someone today who knows more about pet fashion than I ever will. Laurren Darr, who happens to be a good friend of mine from LeftPaw. Laurren, welcome to Smart Woman Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
And I really want to get into your background and how, when I met you and you were doing this, I was just so both thrilled and amazed because it was something new and different, and you did it so well. I mean, you really do have an eye for color and fashion as far as I'm concerned. So let me tell the audience a little bit more about you. And I think I have to put on my trusted glasses these days. I don't know, Laurren, are you like that?
Yes, I have mine here.
Oh, thank you. Whew. So many people ask me, Laurren says, how did you get started with publishing and writing books? That's a good question. They wonder if I had a burning desire to have my name printed on the cover of a book that I could put on my bookshelf and say, I wrote this book. It's a worthy goal. It wasn't anything like that. She says, I had already technically published a book while getting my MBA, and I knew all the time, effort, and nose to the grindstone hard work it took. I really thought I had done it once and that was enough. Fast forward, ladies, fast forward to 10 years later. Her son, Zachary Tinkle, entered elementary school. You know, the kind that was the perfect place to crush creativity and spirit of a young child. That's so sad, isn't it? We're not going to talk about that, but that is so sad because it does happen. Immediately, he lost interest in all kinds of reading. This was a kid who was an avid reader and a vivacious child. He could have probably easily tested at a third grade level in kindergarten, but suddenly he just wasn't interested anymore and not himself. I tried many things to get him to go back to reading and being the boy that he once was, but most things didn't work until I started using the names of our pugs in old-fashioned nursery rhymes. He thought it was hilarious to make fun of Inky and Sarge and Benji in that way. Then one day he said, Mommy, you should write a book with these rhymes in it. And I thought to myself, would creating a book interest him enough to want to read and stick with school? And so it began. I studied up on how to get a book printed. And luckily I knew about graphics from my days of being in a corporate marketing job. And so was LeftPaw Press born at that time? Is that?
Yes, it was. And he actually helped me come up with the name for it. And he actually helped me to do the logo. And it's the same logo even today.
And this is how many years now since you actually started that?
Around 2008. It may have kind of started in 2007, winter, fall of 2007, but really the first book was actually in 2008.
All right. So we're going to talk about these books, but I definitely need to show. This is so, and here we have the, I don't want to, I mean, Pugnocchio. Was that one of the ones you just, oh, I'm going to write one about my pug, only it's going to be related to the story of Pinocchio?
Yes, he gave me a mission that I should do at least one pug book per year.
Oh my goodness.
And so I think I pretty much stayed on track with that. I might have missed a year, but I made up for it with writing about our dogs in other ways, not necessarily in what I call the Pug Fairy Tale series.
Okay.
More based on real life. So yeah, he can't rake me over the coals for that. I've more than made up for it.
So, I mean, you have quite a journey. And one of the things that I did want to mention is we met, of course, at Blog Paws.
Mhm.
And I think when you came to Blog Paws, Laurren, and you were showing off pet fashions. Now, everyone needs to understand, this is one book in a series.
Yes, that's one of 7 of the hardcover dog breeds illustration encyclopedias.
Okay. And that was the thing that I really was attracted to, because I'm a dog person. I love cats and ferrets and all the other little furry creatures and even birds and whatnot. I don't like spiders. I'm sorry, I don't like spiders. Snakes I can tolerate if they're in somebody else's house. But dogs, and I mean, at Blog Post, everyone dressed up their dog. And talk a little bit about going or combining these two, the pug and the fashion. Talk about, are they separate? I mean, so on Wednesdays and Thursdays you do the dog fashion, and on Fridays you do the pugs. How does that work?
No, my life kind of just all kind of comes together. It's a collision of my son's racing and the pugs and the pet fashion and everything. I do map out my week. Like on a Sunday, I'll have like a Sunday summit and map out, okay, here's what I need to get done this week. The pet fashion books in particular, they took about 5 years to get those done, because it's very detailed in those particular books, because it explains for every specific breed how to design pet fashion for that breed, taking into consideration their coat, the thickness of the coat, the height of the dog, whether you had a Boston Terrier, right?
Yes.
So they tend to have a little broader chest. Mm-hmm. So that's something to take into consideration with pet fashion for that. So I have rating scales in there for, how much they shed and those kinds of things, because you need to take that into consideration with your fabric. Now, when we met, I was just kind of in the beginning phases of the Pet Fashion Guild.
Yeah.
And you guys even had a pet fashion show, which of course I loved, going to Blog Paws. And I always dressed my dogs like I was the weird kid on the block. And
even
I wrote
as a young girl, you're saying even as a.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my book Lipstick on a Pug talks about my first pug, Tootie, and how I would dress her up. I would much rather dress my dog than dolls, and I really didn't have a lot of dolls actually. And so yeah, I was kind of the oddball child on the block because
That's okay. That's okay.
But for me, the pet fashion was always about creating a closer bond and connection with your pet. And I know a lot of people do it just for fun, and it's funny at Halloween to put them in a costume and things like that. But I really felt like it made us closer because she was my sidekick all the time, So when I got older and grew up, some would say I'm not grown yet, but I looked around and I thought, there's got to be something to this pet fashion industry, and looked for an organization, and I didn't see one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started down that path. I went to Pet Fashion Week, and then years later decided, okay, if somebody else isn't going to do this, I am, because I have a passion for people who want to create a pet fashion business. And so that's the reason for the development of the pet fashion books, like the encyclopedia that you have, so that they have the tools to become successful in the pet fashion business. I'd love for pet fashion designers to have their names as well known as, Versace or Tory Burch and things like that.
So What I'm hearing is this is an actual thing. It's not just something that you do. It's an actual people. It's a pet fashion world. There's designers.
Oh, absolutely.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah, and what I have found is there wasn't a membership organization to help people, because a lot of the people start kind of, you know, in their basement sewing clothes for their dogs, and they think, oh, hey, can I put this on Etsy and make a business out of it? And there really aren't a lot of, you know, you go around the world and you find fashion design schools all over the world, but you don't find that they have curriculums for pets specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like for us to have a world where that's considered a niche, whether, you know, just like women's clothing or petite clothing or, you know, athleisure or what have you.
Holy cow. So, in your expert opinion, how many people actually dress up their dogs and cats to the point that they can actually, you can actually turn this into a business?
I think the percentage of people that could turn it into a business is probably a little limited, simply because you can't do just the design part.
Oh.
A lot of people don't realize all of the other things, all the stuff that goes into running a business beside getting to do the thing that you love.
The creative part, right?
Right.
Because a business is a business.
Yeah. And so some of that is mindset and some of that is skill, which a lot of that you could outsource or hire out.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a certain personality to basically be an entrepreneur. So until we get to the point in the fashion industry where a company is going to hire someone specifically for pet fashion, and that becomes a job, our pet fashion designer in a clothing brand,
right?
You know, even for a department store, let's say Nordstrom wants a pet fashion designer. And then that, until those positions are created, we're not going to, it'll be a little bit tough because people also have to be an entrepreneur. Does that make sense?
It does, but I guess what I'm I'm thinking at the back end, there are people who are looking for the pet fashions. They don't want to make them in their basement. They don't want to go on their dining room table. They want to buy them from you.
Right.
Or someone else. And I also think that especially, I don't know, millennials seem to be, from what I read and hear about, they're not focused on getting married and having kids. So they get a pet. They get a dog or two dogs. Okay. And they would be a market for this. Because again, the dog is their surrogate child. And for you and I, the dogs are anyway. I mean, Emily is our baby. I say every day, what does baby want? And her ears perk up because she knows she's the baby. And we don't dress her up. She does not like getting dressed up. I tried once. But I think there is a market for it. I wonder how to tap into it. I'm not sure. But going on that premise or that idea, is the book then a way in? Does this, I mean, did you create this for those of us who are very interested in because there's a lot of stuff in here. It isn't just about here, dress up your dog. There's a lot of like table of contents for toy group you have. And like you said, I love the way you describe the dog's coat and you talk about those personality traits and whatnot. It seems like this is a wonderful book, and the series would be a wonderful series for people who are really building that bond with their pet, like you did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they may only want the one that has their particular breed or group,
Right.
because you don't have to buy the whole set, obviously, but and a lot of people have bought them just because they like the illustrations. Florina, my fashion illustrator, she's fantastic, and people say this just looks really nice as a table book. So some people have bought it for that, people that just love dogs. So that there really is a market for it beyond just designers or people that would want to be designers. Even though a lot of the information in there is specifically on how would you design for a pug dog or whatnot.
Right. So when you were thinking about these wonderful books, you have a whole, behind you, you were showing me a whole series of the pug books, which just adorable, wonderful books to read aloud to your children. When you started doing this, and Zachary wanted you to create these books, but he's all grown up now. So what is Zachary into these days that Mom is still doing the wonderful thing he suggested, but is he helping? Is he part of the company?
With LeftPaw Press, he's probably my critic.
Ooh.
An editor, let's say. So I'll write a book like Pug Bella, the Pit Pet Fashionista, which talked about, it's from Bella's perspective of what it was like for her to go to the race tracks, because we would take her in the pits, and she was even in a Speedway Illustrated magazine, and they called her like the Pit Fashionista or something like that, because of course, me being me, I had tutu. Every year I would have a tutu made that matched his race suit. So she was definitely the fashionista in the pits.
So he's racing cars. He's racing cars, correct? And you brought her there because you're part of the pit crew?
I run the team, and if they need me to jump in and grab a tire and help put it on, then I'm there to do what they need me to do. Mostly I handle his marketing. So I video all his races. We do the social media from the track.
Wow.
If a magazine comes up and they want to interview him, I have to make sure that he's not busy with the crew, that kind of thing. He has to be at an appropriate time when it's not, doesn't interfere with the business of getting his racing career on track. So
talk a little bit about how this choice that you made back when he was small, that any mother would make. Talk about how that grew into the business that you have today called LeftPaw Press. Well,
I found that I enjoyed it. I liked writing about our pug dogs, and it was fun for us. And then when I looked at the Pet Fashion Guild and things like that, I thought we can really create some valuable tools here for people to really help propel them in a direction that they would want to go with a pet fashion career. And so we've also published books on Zachary's racing, a couple children's books. But then we found out that his great-great-grandfather had raced in the Indy 500 and had a pretty good career in racing. And so we found that out because we saw his picture on a wall at Grundy County Speedway one day when Zachary was racing there. So my husband went back and did about 4 years of research, and we were able to publish a book on Harry McQuinn it's more kind of a family heirloom. But we've even had people send us messages and say, hey, I knew Harry and I have memorabilia from him. Would you guys like it back in your family? So it's been an interesting journey. My husband's a geneticist, and we've published, we knew that what he specialized in with bone and joint disorders would not be picked up by a major publisher, but it was information that could be used in the world. So he has published through LeftPaw Press. Because it's valuable information, and he's only one person, so he can't see all the patients in the world that would need it. So we've turned it into how can we make the world a better place by putting the publishing business to use. And so that's how it's kind of ballooned and grown over the years. And I enjoy it.
Good. But I see one of the things that I see that really has always impressed me is the use of color. I love that you're a very colorful person and that the books are colorful. When it comes to deciding this is going to be a business and how to run the business, still be mom, still help him with his racing, that's a lot of hats. Helping your husband do his book, which sounds phenomenal also. How do you do all that? I mean, women, I want to hear a little bit about Laurren, the person, the woman, the mom, who built this wonderful business and fits all this stuff into it. You have the same 24 hours I do. So how does that happen?
Part of it is organization. I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to organization.
All right.
I'm sure my husband would agree to that. But like I think I shared with you that I do a Sunday summit. So every Sunday I write down, okay, these are the things that need to be done this week. Another thing I do is at the end of the year, when race season is finally over, let's say November to December, I map out, okay, here's everything we're going to do for the next year. So I already know what we're doing for the next year and up to 3 years.
Get out of here.
As far as book publishing goes. And as far as where we want Zachary to be in his racing career. So okay. I kind of build things out around that. And so you do the big picture in a time frame, and then you just go, okay, if I'm going to publish the dog fitting guide in 2020, what do I need to get that done? I need the graphics. Obviously, I need to write. I need to have all the measurements for all the dogs. And how do I get that in a spreadsheet, or do I have it so that I can transfer it to a book? And, map out the steps, and then, okay, figure out when we want it published, and then back up everything past that needs to go ahead of that in order to get it published in time. So there's that, and I've just had to be disciplined about things like that, and I also, I would say I've probably offended a lot of people. Not a lot, but some people here and there that I've had to set extreme boundaries with on my time. Because if you say, okay, I will do X, Y, Z for you, and then they come back and you're trying to be charitable with your time and things like that, and then they come back and then they ask you to do something that's going to take like 10 times more than that. I've had to, especially in the last couple of years, set boundaries. And some people don't appreciate that.
But that's an important point to make, is being able not to just set them, but to keep them.
Yes.
It's one thing to say, this is my boundary, and then, oh, well, I'll let you in this far. And, someone else comes and I know, but I know this is supposed to be my boundary, and no, I agree with you. And some people who might not appreciate it, as I say to people all the time, not everybody's going to like you. Isn't that too bad? Yeah, you are in charge of your time and your effort into your business. So that's a really great point. And I like the whole looking at the whole year from the perspective of, what am I creating? What do I want to have done? And then going backwards to say, well, this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen for that to be true. That's a really great way. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but we should mention that you're not looking for people to send books. I don't want people to think that they can send you books to publish. You're inclusive of your own work right now and have more than enough on your plate for that. But from the business perspective end, is it important for your opinion to both have the boundaries that you talked about business-wise for everybody, including family? I mean, sometimes even family has to understand, no, this is my writing time, or this is my whatever time that you can't come in the door. I have a sign on my door when I do these videos, and it says, do not enter upon penalty of death. The grandchildren got a big kick out of that. And I said, but if you come in, then I have to kill you, so don't come in. But truth is, if they were here, they would come in anyway. But
setting boundaries with family is one of the hardest things. And frankly, sometimes they're the worst at not understanding.
Yes. Yes. So you have to learn to do that, especially if you work at home.
Yes, which I do.
Okay.
I'm also Zachary's learning coach, so we have to sit down every day and map out his classwork and everything. So we're.
So the other thing is to also, when you're doing a business and you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, I mean, talk about how you find me time. Because I really think it's important, especially for women. I'm sure men need it also, but you need a few minutes, maybe every day, maybe a couple times a week, where it's just you doing something you enjoy. I recommend people read books, and go somewhere where it's quiet, or just get out that favorite book and read it. And I recommend fiction, even though I want to help women write nonfiction books. How do you find me time for you?
That's something I would say I'm learning more and more all the time. I have signed up with a wonderful group of women that are supportive and around my age and physically in about the same place to go work out a few times a week. And some days I just look at Brad and Zachary and go, I need to just go wash off the ick of this day and soak in the tub. And the older I've gotten, the more I've been okay with doing that. And even though I have things on the to-do list. And I think that women, especially when we're all busy with kids and schedules and work and everything like that, it's something that we have to learn to allow ourselves to do and grant ourselves permission to do. And that's probably the toughest aspect for me is even in the past couple of years, just starting to give myself permission to go do those things.
Yep, that's it. The permission thing is huge. I love that you said you have these other group of women that you also go work out with or something. It's so important for women to reach out to other women, because that's your support system, and we understand. We've been there, we know, we're there now. And it's not, all of this stuff in the media about how women tear each other down. No, I maybe met one or two women in my life who did that. Most of the women I know build each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. I met a lady early on when I was in the broadcasting industry. Chicky Bucko. I love saying her name.
That's cute.
But she was one of the first women, high-level executive in the radio industry. And I just thought, wow, because I had met the women that tear each other down a little early on in my career. And I met her, and she was just so supportive of everything. It was in the Alliance for Women in Media. And I thought, oh, I like her. I want to be like her. She's somebody to emulate and look up to. And let's get a lot more women like that in the world. And the more that I've watched women, I have found, like you have, that more support each other than tear each other down.
Yeah, there's a few out there, but we're going to end with that now because that's a really, really good place for us to say thank you for being on Smart Woman Conversations. This is Yvonne DeVita, and I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but this is my show, and I have smart women like Laurren on a regular basis. Laurren, I can't wait to share everything about you in the blog post with the video, and I would love to revisit this again down the road and talk a little bit more about LeftPaw Press. Would you be open to that?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to.
Awesome, awesome. This was a great conversation. I love that we talked about how women support each other. That's so important. So I'm here to support you ladies. Laurren is here to support you also. We do not tear each other down. Not in the business of doing that. So Laurren, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right.